up with everybody.
Great. Jim, you gave us a lovely teaser, although I can't really talk about what happened in the executive session. Do you want to take it away?
I'm happy to take it away. Let me just share my screen.
And we are recording.
Okay. Basic introduction. This is building by building, how each budget has changed over the last 4 years. So we have FY23 actual, FY24 budget, FY25 budget, FY26 budget. And you can see as we go through here that, different buildings are up or down, but the bottom line is that just about everybody is down from last year. Some of it's significant. One of the big goals is we need to get the amount of money that we raise, that we get from the ed fund. So our ed appropriation to be, below what it was this year by about $500,000. That was really how we got to the $2.5 million amount. When we were all done with trimming all of our money out and everything else that we've been working on since July, our budget came in at $30,231,000, which is $600,000 approximately more than this year's budget. But the more important thing than how much we're spending is how we get there. And how we get there, and let me make this a little bigger so everybody can see it, is that our budget is up 1.6%, but our revenues are up 18%. And so what is the mix of the revenues that are up? There's three big things in those revenues that are up. One of the big things is that we have about a $400,000 annual for the next 3 years revenue from the state for a special ed student that's placed in a very expensive placement. And so we front the money, the state reimburses us at about 80 cents on the dollar. That's about $400,000. And so we weren't aware of that this time a year ago. The students placed this year were getting the money, and so this is going forward. Second, because our total participation in special ed is up over prior years, and a lot of this is tuition students coming in, but just the same, our state funding towards special ed is up about $300,000. So just between those two lines, our revenues are up about $700,000. Our tuition at the high school in particular is up. It's only up about $200,000 over the current year, but it's up, and we're cautiously optimistic it will remain up. And so those are the big three players. Everything else is up or down insignificant amounts. One of the biggest factors as we get through this, though, once we're done with our revenues, brings us to an ed spend. And if this was last year, that's where the conversation would stop. But because we are moving our bank loan that we took out last year into a bond, it will be excluded from the per pupil cost. Brings us to total amount of ed spend of $23,838,000, which is down, $1.3 million, almost $1.4 million from this year, and that's where our savings is. Now, one of the things that we're dealing with, and you can see the LTW-ADM is down about 35 students. And so let me tell you how we got to that. Your LTW-ADM starts with our actual ADM. So you can see our actual ADM for the last 4 years. And it takes a 2-year average. So for FY26, it takes the 901.49 and the 924.82. And just so you know, today, that 901.49 stabilized for 2 days in a row at 908.25, so we think that's where it's going to stay. So that average will go up just a little bit. And so right now, our average for the 2 years is 913 students. Then there's weighting. And to get the LTW ADM weighting, we have all of these factors. So for pre-K, they take 0.54 away from each pre-K student. An elementary student counts as 1, so there's no factor up or down. Middle school student counts as 1.36. High school student counts at 1.39. Free and reduced lunch counts as 2.03, or it adds a factor of 1.03. And just so you know, and I'm just so happy about this, with the effort that we've been putting in to get people to use the state online reporting for their incomes, our free and reduced, which has dropped down to about 16, is now over 21%. So the good news is that people are reporting it, so we get to take advantage of that. ELL students or English language learners get an additional 2.49. We have, I think, 2 students that count. We have 3 students total that qualify, but one of them being a pre-K, I don't think counts. And then we have sparsity. And sparsity is if you live in part of a town that there's less than 36 people per square mile, we get a 0.15 factor. If you're more than 36 but less than 55, we get a 0.12. And it goes on for those, and then the small school factors. Barnard gets 3 different sparsity factors because they take the town and they divide it into little segments. And so I don't have the ability to figure that out. I can figure out all the others. That one, I just kind of take what they did last year and roll it forward. But these are the factors that they add to our 913 ADM, which last year came to 585 additional weights or additional ghost students to bring us up to 1,520. Using the same weighting that I was able to come up with, we're at 571 for next year. And these are Jim Fenn numbers, not official numbers. So we're at 1484. Raf and I did learn this morning that we should have the first round of LTW ADMs out next week, or Friday or Monday, Friday this week or Monday of next week. So as soon as I have them, I will update all my numbers. But this is where all this comes from. We go back up here, your ed spend is a simple math equation. Take your adjusted ed spend divided by LTW and get your ed spend per student at 16,055. That means
it's lower. It's 500 per student lower than last year, right?
It is. And
at least on your projections.
Last year we were 440 over the threshold for this year.
Right.
So this puts us $71 below the threshold, which my target was the threshold, so we did all right.
Yeah, no, and I think what the big X factor then, the last piece of the puzzle for those following the bouncing ball here is the yield, right? You divide that ed spend per LTW ADM by the yield. If the yield stays the same as last year, which would be catastrophic to tax rates across the state, right? But if it's just flat, then our tax rates go down across the district, right? If the yield goes up, which it should do, and that's what's supposed to happen each year to account for things like inflation, tax rates across the district will go down a lot.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't imagine, the shock that some of the people had when they got their tax bills this year. And although it won't return to 2 years ago, I'm anticipating that all of our communities will see a decrease unless their CLAs just change radically. And I don't think, I think they've slowed down, stabilized with their growth on the CLAs.
Right, they've cooled significantly. So we'll see. But those are on 2-year averages or 3-year average. I forget what's the equalization study. Is that a 2-year or 3-year they do on that?
I think it's a 2-year also.
Okay. So that'll have some momentum, just like our enrollment numbers had momentum down. Those CLAs will have some momentum up. But I mean, end of the day though, like we're going from across the district on average 30% increases to taxes. If we can show a negative number, then we should have no problem passing our budget. Or even if it's something, we can cool it from that, rocket fuel of 30% to something like 3 or 5, right? That would be
And
amazing.
my target when we started this process last July was to bring in the LTW ADM at 16,126. And we're close. We're a little bit below it, which is good. I'm not sure that 16,126 is the final number. And so being below it is really good. And like you
Right.
said, if the yield goes up, which in theory it's supposed to, it puts us in a really good position.
Yeah. We'll just see what the administration and the legislature do. Last year's yield bill was full of surprises, right?
It was. And for
Um,
members of the committee and any board member who I have not shared it with you, I have a shared folder with line by line detail ad nauseum on all of our budgets. So anybody who wants all the nitty gritty, it's there, and I will make sure that all board members have access to it.
Awesome. Anna, Corinne, any questions for Jim? This is our sneak preview. Okay, we've had a long night already. This is great. Thank you. I mean, any praise to heap on the man? This is wonderful.
Thanks, Jim. You've done a great job. I appreciate it.
Great. All right. Well, this is going to be a quick one then. We can, anything else for us, Jim?
I have all sorts of details people want to ask questions, but this was what I wanted to show you.
Yeah, this is great news. I think I don't think there are many school districts in the state that face the kind of pressure we did. I mean, we're way above average, right? So the fact that we were able to take the approach that we did to budget cuts and take so much out should result in significant numbers at the polls, right? More than other districts. Anna?
I'm just going to request, since I was trying to set up the meeting minutes, I started checking in at the fact that the LTW ADM is not quite where we want it. Prior to that, can you give me like the top 3 highlights that I missed while trying to get us set up?
I think maybe 2, in every building across the district, we're seeing, reductions in the amount of spending from last year, and most of that, and we'll also see, even though our budget is going up a little bit, the overall budget, we are seeing a reduction in the amount that we will need to take from taxpayers or the ed fund, and that's a result of increased revenues, and those revenues are largely driven by increases in special education funding.
I
Did I
think
get that right, Jim?
I think that the middle school, high school, and Wes were a slight increase in the budget.
Yeah, maybe express it as on average,
Yeah.
spending is significantly down in each building.
So every building or every campus rather is
Or in total, you could say spending will be down significantly. That's just a result of the budget cuts we all just looked at.
yeah. And then while the overall budget is higher, we're taking less from the ed fund. And I think I heard something along the lines of, we don't know how much, but it's not, the taxpayer burden is not going to be nearly as big as it was last year.
It will be less.
We're planning on it being less.
I'm hoping for it to be less also.
In real numbers, I mean, so you can, if you think about burden in terms of how much how much money you're looking to spend, or is it burden in terms of tax rate? We don't know what tax rate is. We know that our budget's smaller. at least the part
Yeah,
that,
but I guess so that we were, and maybe I didn't word it quite correctly. The giant hike that we all saw on our tax bills this year, we will not see that large of an increase next year.
I could just about guarantee that, based
I-
on what Jim just shown. I think there's a pretty good chance we'll see a negative number, which would be a first for my tenure.
Meaning that the tax rates would go down.
Correct.
That's the plan.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Some of the parts of the plan are out of our control, but that's the
Of
plan.
course, yeah. And I know we're still waiting on numbers from the state in January. What are those numbers that we will be seeing finalized in that timeframe?
So the LTW ADM, I should see the first draft of that either Friday or Monday.
Okay,
And so that will let me know if I did a good job guessing or if I'm way off. And I think I probably did a good job, but we'll see how close I am.
Now we have December 1st letter.
December 1st letter is the yield. And somewhere between now and the December 1st letter, we should have the NEAP index, which will allow them to go back and review the excess spend threshold and see if they have to make adjustments to that. Because all three of those are important before we get to the tax rate.
NEAP is
Yeah.
N as in Nicholas, EEP as in Patricia.
NEAP is a Northeast economic projection.
Perfect. Thank you.
And our intention in this budget was to rip the Band-Aid once. We really hope this is our year that we've really had to tighten our reins. And then as the state hopefully will take the actions that have been outlined, that I've seen, Carrie's seen, Ben, that we won't have to go back here, knock on wood, again. That was our intention.
And I appreciate what Ben said about praise. The praise goes to the team. This would not have happened without our principals digging in deep, working endless hours as a team to make it happen. And so it was a true team effort. I just collected the data and pushed.
Well said, Jim. All right. Anything else for the group? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
You want to second that on?
I sure will, and just remind everybody to check out the finance meeting minutes that have been taken and will be in the finance committee folder in the Google Docs.
Thank you so much. All in favor of
Yeah.
adjourning at 8:08 p.m., please say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you so much.
Ayes have it. We are adjourned at 8:08. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, take
Stay
care.
well.